When Kim Ji-hoon's girlfriend Park Seo-yeon secretly used his life savings for a lavish trip to Bali, his world was shattered. Her cold, selfish justification for the betrayal fueled a quiet fury, painting her as a heartless schemer who stole from the man who trusted her most. But in her greed for a complimentary luxury cruise, she walked right into a trap that Ji-hoon and his friend had meticulously set. Now, a satisfying justice has been served, and this is the story of how a man's broken trust led to the perfect, righteous revenge. Kim Ji-hoon was a man who lived his life by a simple, unwavering code: hard work, quiet ambition, and absolute loyalty. His dreams were not of fleeting luxuries or extravagant pleasures, but of something solid and enduring. For years, he had poured his energy and every spare penny into a single shared goal: saving for a down payment on a modest apartment in Seoul. This wasn't just a financial target, it was the tangible promise of a future with his girlfriend, Park Seo-yeon. He saw it as the first step on a lifelong journey together, a foundation they were building brick by brick. Their relationship to Ji-hoon was a testament to his values. He saw Seo-yeon as his partner, his confidant, and his future. The trust between them felt limitless, a bond so strong it seemed unbreakable. Because of this profound trust, he had given her access to his savings account. After all, she was the financial genius of the two, as she often laughed, and he believed she was managing their shared funds with a careful hand, just as he was filling it with his hard-earned money. He was content, even proud, that every long day at work, every skipped dinner out, every small sacrifice brought them closer to the day they would finally move into their own home. Ji-hoon was building a world for them, and he believed she was doing the same. One lazy afternoon, while Ji-hoon was taking a rare break, his phone buzzed with a message from an old friend, Min-jin. Min-jin and Seo-yeon knew each other through a mutual social circle. "Hey," the message read, "I just saw Seo-yeon's latest posts. The pictures are unbelievable. Didn't know you guys were taking such a luxurious trip to Bali. The resort looks insane." A strange, cold feeling began to coil in Ji-hoon's stomach. A trip to Bali? Lavish? They hadn't discussed anything of the sort. In fact, their last conversation about their finances had been a reminder to be more frugal. A flicker of unease turned into a searing sensation as he opened Instagram. There it was, a meticulously curated gallery of her life abroad. Her hair was styled perfectly, a designer cocktail in her hand as she posed by the edge of an infinity pool, the turquoise ocean stretching out behind her. Each photo was a punch to his gut: lavish dinners that likely cost more than his entire weekly budget, decadent spa treatments, and stunning views from what looked like a five-star villa. She was living a life of pure luxury, a life he had never even dreamed of, a life he had absolutely no knowledge of. The flicker of unease became a burning wrath. He scrolled through her posts, his thumb swiping with a speed born of pure fury. There were no tags of him, no mentions of their shared future, just a proud, beaming Seo-yeon living a fantasy. The truth, as bitter and sharp as glass, was a brutal jab. She hadn't been working towards their shared dream. She had been spending the money he earned on her own personal, extravagant journey. A quiet, righteous anger he hadn't known he possessed began to simmer deep inside him, threatening to boil over. He was no longer just a man with a broken heart. He was a man who had been betrayed, and the weight of that deception was a burden he could no longer bear. The world Ji-hoon knew, the one he had so carefully built with his hope and hard work, dissolved in an instant. The hours that followed the discovery were a haze of disbelief and mounting dread. He sat in his small, quiet room, the images of Seo-yeon's lavish vacation burning in his mind like a fever dream. With trembling hands, he picked up his phone and called her, the sound of the ringing tone a hollow echo in the silence. When she finally answered, her voice was cheerful, bathed in the warmth of the tropical sun. It was a stark and horrifying contrast to the cold, suffocating rage that was now consuming him. "What is this, Seo-yeon?" he demanded, his voice thick with a mix of fury and confusion. "The trip, the photos, what is this all about?" He expected a stammered explanation, a frantic apology, a moment of shame. Instead, her response was delivered with a chilling, detached nonchalance that hit him harder than any angry word. "Oh, that? It's just a little getaway. I've been working so hard lately, I deserved it. A little gift to myself." A little gift to herself. The words were a bucket of ice water, a slap in the face. It wasn't "we deserved it," it wasn't "our trip," it was her trip, a reward for her hard work. The carefully constructed facade of their shared life began to crumble before his very eyes. The flicker of wrath he had felt earlier was now replaced by a deep, hollow pain. He knew, in that gut-wrenching moment, that the betrayal was far more profound than just a secret vacation. Driven by a desperate, final shred of denial, he hung up and logged into their shared banking app. He entered the password with a sense of dread, his heart pounding against his ribs. The screen loaded and the numbers flickered into view. The balance, which should have been a proud, growing sum, was nearly zero. A number so low it was almost an insult. The money for their apartment, the years of overtime shifts, the sacrificed weekends, the tangible proof of his commitment to their future, it was all gone. It wasn't a secret getaway, it was a brazen, calculated act of theft. He stared at the screen, the digital numbers mocking him. He saw the dream, the vision of them standing in their own home, shattered into a million impossible pieces. It was gone, and he was left standing in the ruins. The humiliation was immense, a heavy blanket of shame that settled over him. He felt foolish, naive, and completely exposed. His trust, the most precious thing he had offered her, had been used as a weapon against him. It wasn't a mistake, a moment of weakness, or a misunderstanding. It was a calculated, long-running deception. The pain of that betrayal was a physical weight, a burden on his chest. And in that moment, he understood that he was not just a victim of a lie, but of a far more profound and heartbreaking violation of his entire being. The initial shock and blinding pain began to give way to a cold, hard resolve. Ji-hoon was no longer just a victim. He was an investigator, driven by a desperate need for answers. He needed to understand the full extent of the betrayal. He spent the rest of the night poring over the bank statements, the digital footprints of his shattered trust. What he found was more damning and heartbreaking than he could have ever imagined. The extravagant purchases weren't a recent phenomenon. The trail of deceit stretched back not just for a few weeks, but for months. It was a pattern of calculated, high-end spending, designer handbags, expensive beauty treatments, and fine dining bills that dwarfed his own modest expenditures. Each transaction was a cruel reminder of the sacrifices he had made. The money he had earned through long, grueling hours was being spent on a lifestyle he couldn't even afford to dream of. Seo-yeon's extravagant life was not a sudden indulgence, but a long-running, secret charade. He saw her true character laid bare in the cold, unfeeling lines of a bank statement, and the image was horrifying. But as he sifted through the digital wreckage, he noticed something peculiar. Amidst the endless stream of boutique purchases and spa visits, a significant, recurring transaction stood out. It was a large sum transferred to a company called Golden Horizon Tours. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was a consistent pattern of payments. This wasn't just a secret trip to Bali. This was a series of meticulously planned multi-city luxury travel packages. Her so-called hard work was not in her career, but in deceiving him, and her reward was a continuous, lavish escape. Fueled by this new information, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within him. The overwhelming sense of betrayal was now tempered by a strategic focus. He was determined to expose her lies and hold her accountable. He knew he couldn't do this alone. With a heavy heart, he reached out to his friend, Min-jun, the one who had, in his innocence, exposed Seo-yeon's secret in the first place. Ji-hoon confided in him, sharing the full, painful scope of the deception. Min-jun, an expert in IT, was horrified by the brazenness of Seo-yeon's actions. He immediately offered his help. "We need to find solid proof," he said. Using his technical expertise, he found a crucial piece of evidence buried in Seo-yeon's digital history, an email from Golden Horizon Tours. The email, a seemingly innocuous message of congratulations, confirmed all of Ji-hoon's worst fears. It celebrated Seo-yeon's new platinum partner status, a coveted tier reserved for the company's most frequent and highest spending clients. The email concluded with the most chilling detail of all: a complimentary, all-expensive-paid luxury cruise, a grand reward for her consistent spending. Her next big trip was already waiting for her, paid for with his money. A spark of hope ignited in Ji-hoon's chest. This wasn't about just getting his money back anymore. This was a chance to turn her own greed against her. The very scheme she had used to betray him now offered the perfect opportunity for her downfall. This was his chance to serve her a taste of her own medicine, to make her face the consequences of her deception in a way she would never forget. The fight was no longer over. It had just begun, and for the first time in days, he felt like he had the upper hand. Ji-hoon and Min-jun, united by a shared sense of righteous indignation, began to meticulously craft their plan. It was an intricate trap, designed not only to expose Seo-yeon's betrayal, but to do so in a way that would be undeniable. Using the details from the Golden Horizon email, they created a perfectly plausible fake email account. The illusion was flawless, the tone professional and enticing. From this fake account, Ji-hoon sent Seo-yeon a cleverly worded message. It was a formal invitation to an exclusive, pre-departure VIP meeting for her complimentary luxury cruise. The email promised a special preview of her upcoming trip and an opportunity to meet other high-status clients. It was the perfect lure, appealing directly to her inflated sense of self-importance. The email contained a link, not to a real meeting, but to a private chat room meticulously set up by Min-jun. This chat room was a digital cage designed to capture every word she typed, every boast she made. Seo-yeon, blinded by her own ego and the intoxicating fantasy she had built, fell for the trap completely. She logged into the chat room, filled with a triumphant arrogance. She began to boast, not just about her upcoming trip, but about the cleverness of her own scheme. She bragged about her business acumen and how she had financed her new lifestyle by being smart with her boyfriend's money. The screen capture program worked perfectly, meticulously documenting her confession. She even, in a moment of reckless confidence, revealed her plan to leave Ji-hoon after the cruise, when she'd have enough money saved up for herself to live a life of complete independence from him. Every keystroke was a dagger, confirming the full extent of her calculated deception. With the unassailable evidence, the bank statements, the emails, and now the damning screenshots of her own words, Ji-hoon felt a powerful sense of clarity. He wasn't just guessing anymore, he had proof. He shared everything with his family, who were devastated but also fiercely supportive. Their combined outrage gave him the strength to take the next, final step. A few days later, just as Seo-yeon was putting the finishing touches on her packing for her complimentary cruise, Ji-hoon acted. He filed a detailed police report, laying out the evidence of financial fraud and a civil lawsuit to reclaim his money. The police, presented with the overwhelming mountain of proof, acted swiftly. They arrived at Seo-yeon's door just as she was about to leave for the airport, suitcase in hand, ready to embark on the trip she had stolen from him. The sight of her face, frantic and confused as the police explained the charges and led her away in the back of a patrol car, was the ultimate validation for Ji-hoon. It was a powerful, righteous triumph that washed over him, a cold dish of karma served exactly as it deserved. He wasn't just a victim anymore, he was a man who had fought for justice and won. The satisfaction was immense, a profound sense of closure and vindication. The charade was over, the game was up, and for the first time in a long time, Ji-hoon felt truly free. The fallout from Seo-yeon's arrest was swift and absolute. News of her deception spread like wildfire through their shared social circles, and the carefully constructed image she had so desperately tried to maintain crumbled to dust. Her lavish social media posts, once a source of envy, now became a public spectacle of ridicule. The very people she had tried to impress with her stolen wealth were the first to turn their backs on her. The friends she had cultivated, based on a foundation of lies and materialism, quickly distanced themselves, leaving her isolated and alone. To add to her misery, the Golden Horizon Company, upon learning the full extent of the fraud and the public scandal, was quick to act. They not only canceled her complimentary cruise, the very prize of her betrayal, but also rescinded her platinum partner status and all future benefits. The luxurious trip she had so gleefully planned became a symbol of her public humiliation. Her karma was not just a metaphorical concept, it was a tangible, crushing reality that took away everything she had so greedily sought. The fantasy she had lived at Ji-hoon's expense was over, replaced by the cold, hard reality of a jail cell and a ruined reputation. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon found himself on the receiving end of a very different kind of social response. Instead of shame, he was met with an outpouring of support and admiration. His story became a cautionary tale, a powerful narrative of resilience and courage against a profound betrayal. People praised his quiet dignity and his determination to seek justice, turning his personal tragedy into a source of public inspiration. Through the legal proceedings, Ji-hoon was able to successfully reclaim most of the money Seo-yeon had stolen. The financial wound was healing, but more importantly, he found a new and profound sense of purpose and self-worth. He was no longer just a man saving for a distant dream. He was a survivor who had overcome a major setback. He decided to use his painful experience to help others. He started a small, informal savings group with his friends and colleagues, openly sharing his story to help them avoid similar pitfalls. His words of caution were always heartfelt, delivered with the wisdom of someone who had learned a devastating lesson. He looked at his life, at the quiet room he had once shared with Seo-yeon, and saw not a ruin but a blank canvas. His dream of owning an apartment was no longer just a shared goal, it was now a symbol of his personal strength and independence. He realized that the foundation of his future was not built on the trust of another, but on his own hands, his own values, and his own hard work. The path was his alone to forge. Ji-hoon's ordeal became a powerful testament to the idea that some things, like karma, will eventually catch up, and that true strength is not found in avoiding pain, but confronting it and emerging stronger. His broken trust was the foundation for a much more meaningful and resilient life. He had found inspiration in the ruins of his past, and in doing so, he began a new chapter, one where his trust would only be given to those who had truly earned it.